Yo, what's going down, Green Screen Entertainment? Your boy Jay Green right here. I gotta bring in some of my ride or dies right now to break down this movie because we got a lot of thoughts. I got concerns, questions, things I don't know, but maybe these cats can answer. This is my dude Paul right here. Paul, say what's up to the people.
How's it going?
Holla at him. We got Robin right here. Say what's up to the people.
I have spoken.
Yes, okay. So, we're just going to have a very candid conversation and see how we felt about the film. I have talked to only a small select amount of people about it, but obviously they hadn't seen it yet, so I couldn't really say too much. Or there are people that I feel maybe, don't have as much deep knowledge, so maybe they weren't feeling what I was feeling. So, let's just kind of go around and say, Paul, what did you think about the movie as a whole?
As a whole, it's a lot. There's a lot going on. I really thought that it lacks some conviction. I think the movie tries to please too many people at once.
I would agree.
To its fault. But overall, it has a lot of good Star Wars action.
Okay. Robin, what'd you think?
I would agree with Paul that is a lot. I had all the feelings, every emotion on the spectrum I felt during that 2.5 hours. I agree, it tried to do a lot. It did feel like it was trying to check off a lot of boxes. But I feel like I can't fully critique this movie until I go back and critique the Last Jedi. Because I feel like the reason this movie had to cram in so much plot was because no plot was developed in The Last Jedi. I feel like Rian Johnson fumbled it at the 1 yard line of the opposite side, and J.J. Abrams had to run it the 99 yards. Okay, you know what I'm saying?
I feel you.
So it's very difficult for me to take this movie in isolation. But if I do take it in isolation, I actually say I enjoyed it as a film. Again, with this 9-part series, it is hard to take a movie in isolation, especially when it's the last one. But if I were to, I would give this movie a solid 7.5.
Okay, fair enough. So we'll definitely break that down. I want to hear how you're breaking that shit down for reals. I would say I enjoyed this movie. I did like it. I will revisit it. I'll get it on Blu-ray 4K for sure. But I had a lot of issues with it. I think because of what both these guys said as far as how much it had to maybe pick up from where Rian Johnson left off or recover the ball, if you will, or how much it put into it that maybe didn't really stick the landing for me 100%. So let's see where we start. Paul, what were certain things that you thought was maybe a lot? By the way, this is a spoiler discussion.
Spoiler
so
alert
right now.
Spoiler
if you
alert.
ain't trying to be spoiled, but take your ass away from here right quick.
Yeah.
Go see the movie.
So we got a nice broad spectrum of opinion here on these movies because I'll start off with saying I love The Last Jedi.
This is going to be a problem.
So-
this is gonna get spicy.
So, I will say that everything that was great about The Last Jedi, I thought J.J. Abrams completely screwed with. Why'd
you bring him in?
I'll start with this. I feel like what you should do in this case is you should take the previous movie and you should try to take it to its logical conclusion. What you shouldn't do is try to correct things that certain sections of people complained about. I think you could take a story and turn it good based on what you already have. For me, I felt like he was trying too hard to erase stuff that people didn't like. Like, I felt like he looked on Reddit or on Twitter and he picked as many complaints as he could find.
Right.
And he decided, how can I address every single one of these? Like, people...
What would be an example? So give us an example.
So people complained, how could Rey beat Kylo in a lightsaber fight? Don't worry, in this movie, Kylo wins the lightsaber fight. Actually, he's about to kill Rey until Leia forces into his mind. Okay, then it's, I don't like Luke being on Ahch-To and in exile. First thing Luke says, I was wrong. I don't like Luke throwing the lightsaber. Luke catches the lightsaber. Treat a Jedi weapon with more respect.
That shit stood out to me
good
sure.
Lord, like, I felt like they had to try to address every single thing. We don't like Rose in the movie. Okay, in that case, let's.
I wasn't
She's
mad about
like,
that shit.
she literally goes.
I don't like
She
Rose.
literally goes. I have to stay behind to study First Order ships. You know what? You're right. Let's send away the stormtrooper who used to work on First Order ships so that you could stay behind to study First Order ships.
Valid points.
Just very weird. Also, the people that are really against the SJW culture of this thing.
Wait, what's SJW?
Like social justice warrior. Like, people were mad that they were like trying to put identity politics in the movies.
Oh,
which
and the
I'm
one that
happy
went to
about.
that casino planet.
No, just all of it. Like, people didn't like the idea that Finn and Poe were a thing. There was a lot.
True, I remember that.
So I look back in the other movie. Finn sees Poe, gives him a big hug. They're grabbing each other. They're grabbing each other. He's biting his lip. He's looking at him. This movie, this is literally them. Oh, we're gonna hold hands.
Yeah.
Like, they were so afraid to even give them any kind of, like, fun interaction because they didn't want to even lean into the Finn Poe storyline. And so much so that they just started throwing women at both of them. He was just like, here's Rose, here's Rey, here's Janna, here's Zori Bliss. Like, we're just going to make all of them, like, God forbid, like, any of them even have an idea that those two of them could be together. I don't know. To me, like, it just seemed like overcompensating. And that's the problem. Like, to me, the conviction I mean is, like, Rian Johnson made a movie, and he went for it. And I even say that about the prequels. Like, the prequels, whether you like or dislike what George Lucas did, George Lucas had a singular idea, and he did it. Like, he did it.
Oh, I don't know about that, but we can go back to George in a minute. I mean, he's out of the picture now.
Like he didn't start Revenge of the Sith going, oh, you thought the romance between Anakin and Padme was clunky? In that case, and then recorrect it and then make it all different in the beginning.
He made it worse.
Just continued.
Well, and then he broke his own
but
lore.
If
But
we're
let's not talk about George.
talking about conviction, he's talking about he didn't step back when people said something. He had a story, he had an idea, a concept, and he continued.
I feel like they were overly concerned about
fan
fan complaints. And to me, that makes for a worse movie when you try to cater to everyone else instead of just making something.
True that. I believe that.
I mean, I will agree with you there. We shouldn't talk about George Lucas. That's another contentious subject. He did not know what he was doing. The first three, he stumbled into a great story. But I just want to put that to the side. George, you do your thing, whatever you're doing. I hope you're having fun. But let's talk about these. So, Rian Johnson. So, he definitely went for it. You're not wrong about that. He went balls to the walls in in The Last Jedi. First of all, why did they name all of them such similar names? It's very confusing. There are a lot of words in the English language. They could have picked other ones. So, The Last Jedi. I feel like they did try to correct it, as you say, but I feel like it wasn't in service to fan complaints. It's because it didn't make any sense what happened in that movie. Mm-hmm. So now I will agree with you, Rose. That was a travesty, and I fully blame Kathleen Kennedy, who is sort of the Kevin Feige of the Star Wars franchise at Disney. She's terrible at her job. I would do better, Justin. But I just met you, but you would do better, and pretty much anyone would do better than her. So I feel like she's fired directors. She's messed up everything. She almost ruined Rogue One. She ruined the Solo story. I mean, I just have a lot of feelings about her. All that to say, anytime stuff like this rears its head, I feel like Kathleen Kennedy just wants to be liked. She has a very particular version of what she wants Star Wars to be. And when people did not like Rose for not great reasons, I feel like she was the one to step back. I don't know that was a JJ decision. I also feel like, not to defend him, but because not a lot of forward motion story happened, at least you could say that, right? In The Last Jedi, there wasn't a ton of forward motion. Okay, so Rey goes to gets trained for 0.5 seconds. Nothing really happens, right? Luke, yeah, he does the thing where he's pretend there at the end in the fight with Kylo. But aside from that, he's not really utilized very well. His storyline doesn't go very far. Ben and Rey, nothing, again, really happens till that third act. I feel like, again, not a lot happens. So now in this movie, he had to cover so much ground. He didn't have time for Rose. We went to a casino planet where they literally accomplished nothing. Their whole goal was to get a code breaker to break in to the ship of the First Order. And they don't do it. The whole movie, an hour and a half, is dedicated to this. And they don't accomplish it. So I am not surprised they did not have time to delve into anything more with Rose when they just were fiddling around in the second movie. Or whatever, I guess, eighth movie.
So, yeah, I don't want to turn this into a Last Jedi review podcast, but they go to the casino planet so that Finn can find a reason for fighting for the Resistance, because at the time all he wants to do is save Rey. He doesn't care about the Resistance. Now he sees that the massive machine of war that's selling weapons to sides is a big deal, and maybe he should choose a side. That's why that Canto Bight stuff exists.
But they couldn't have done it in a better way. Rian Johnson could have got a better story.
But to say no story went forward is I think a little harsh. I would say Rey gets tempted by the dark side in The Last Jedi, which doesn't happen in the first movie, so there's plot development for her there. And I would say that Kylo Ren, he starts to get tempted towards the light side when he has that Force connection with Rey, and they're sitting there, with their little fingertips on the fire, which, by the way, is sexier than any kiss scene in this movie.
Kiss was ridiculous.
I'm not necessarily a Reylo shipper, but to me, it was a whole lot sexier what was going on in The Last Jedi than what was going on in this movie.
Yeah, he got his shirt off, he was looking good. Adam Driver, which, again, he's not conventionally attractive at all, but you can't help it.
I will say this. When you think about what Robin's breaking down from Last Jedi, I like Last Jedi, but I do think that there was a lot missing from what Rian Johnson was maybe trying to do. For instance, we're not reviewing Last Jedi, I feel you, but at the same time, I feel like if you had shown more of why did Luke feel Ben was going to go the opposite way? Why do you think he was going to go to the dark side? And give us more of that. I would have been happy if that was mostly a film of all flashbacks showing us their training and how he was potentially going to turn bad and what actually was the catalyst for him to go to this, deserted island, if you will, or this deserted planet. But
they could have introduced the Sith thing.
But with that said, it had enough for me to be intrigued and be like, okay, maybe I'm not happy with some of the decisions that they made. I do agree with you where it did seem like too much in this film was spoon-fed to the audience as we're going to try to fix what y'all didn't like. So I agree with you on that. With that said, because they're trying to fix all of the things that supposedly people like myself maybe were not comfortable with, like I didn't like Rose, I didn't like, how Luke didn't do a damn thing, I didn't like how he threw the lightsaber, I didn't like all that shit. So I'm not mad at the fact that you want to try to fix it, but I do think that you spoon-fed it in a way that was clunky, expositional, and was not very creative. Be real. Disney's running the fucking world right now, for the most part.
Yeah,
and you mean to tell me, now, real quick, before I go any further, George Lucas apparently only had money to do the original 3 at the time. Then he got money, he was able to do episode 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. Is this literally a 9-book film? Is this like a 9-story situation, like that was already laid out?
He supposedly had things planned out, but if you're going to tell me when he made the original Star Wars, he knew Luke and Leia were brother and sister, you'd be lying to yourself.
Okay, come on now.
So,
they didn't even know that they were going to have Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford in episode 6. That's why Yoda says, there is another, because they weren't sure they were going to get Mark Hamill back. That's why they froze Han Solo in Carbonite at the end of
Harrison
Empire.
Ford's been dying to get out of Star Wars since he was in Star Wars.
But that's what I'm trying to say. So, to say he had a plan, it wasn't true. He basically wrote The Return of the Jedi, basically on set.
So
did not have a plan.
So to that point, what I'm trying to say is where we have a very powerful machine in Disney and Marvel and all these things. I feel like to a certain extent with Marvel, you have something that's laid out in years and years of comic book lore and, plot and storyline and all that sort of stuff. So they can cherry pick what they want, and then from there they can ad-lib, if you will, and put it into a film that obviously we all love and is making billions of dollars. With Star Wars, you have the same power in creativity, if you will. You have same creative minds behind the lens. Why can't they come up with something more creative to put these things into place? I get it that maybe in Force Awakens, Finn leaves the Empire, or the Force Order. He don't want to be down with all that shit, and maybe he did want to only save Rey, so that's why he was trying to dip. But who the fuck is Rose? Rose's character is annoying as fuck, and I'm sorry, but that Canto, that's fine, and that Canto, and I'm not trying to change your mind, but her character was annoying as fuck, and she didn't add anything to the plot. And I agree with the fact that Rian Johnson maybe had more conviction, or there was more conviction, like what you were saying in the other film, right? And then this one maybe didn't have it. But the thing is, if Finn is like, I'm about to sacrifice my shit. Remember in the end of Last Jedi, I'm about to sacrifice, and then Rose blocks it off, and then they share that dumbass kiss.
Stupid.
They share that whack-ass kiss.
Hold on. This is I hate to interrupt you, but I will actually, this is another one in my column of stuff they try to, that movie, they're like, so stupid, how could she try to stop him when he sacrificed himself? This movie, Rose, go ahead, I'm going to stay behind. Alright. She just bounces, she doesn't even care this time. He's like, I'm going to stay on the ship and blow it up. She's like, alright, and she leaves. Like she literally don't care.
And that basically boils down.
She knows she made a mistake.
But that basically boils down to what I'm saying. It's like, it's all over the place. It does not seem that there is an actual through line. If the through line from Force Awakens was, okay, Ben Solo's gonna go, he's bad, right? He kills fucking Han Solo, throws his ass off the motherfucking bridge. He's bad. The only encounter that Rey has ever had with him was when he brought her on the ship to try to get into her mind. That was it. There was no emotional tie between them, what the fuck soever. It was just, you killed your dad, maybe I could turn him, I don't know if I can, whatever, I can't. That's how it ended. Now in this one, all of a sudden they're touching each other, but that's only because of Snoke. Let's not forget, Snoke, hold on now. That's only because of Snoke, right? Okay? He put that shit together. Why? So then he could bring her to his little lair, so then he could just talk shit to Kylo, so then Kylo kills him. Okay, now look, Kylo want to be the leader. That's where we're going right now. He wants to be the leader of the whole First Order. Okay? So it doesn't work out. She's like, no, I can turn you, we could be good. Come on, let's kill all this noise. But then it doesn't work out. The thing blows up. Then that's where that basically ends. That's all the emotion they had. Now in this one, all of a sudden she says, in this movie, I wanted Ben's hand. You don't even fucking know Ben. You don't know him.
Well, I would say this. there is a lot of dialogue back and forth. Once again, I hate that we're turning into a Last Jedi review, but
you can't do one without the other.
but
You
but listen. The time when they're talking to each other, and then she hears his side of the story, and then she finds out the truth about what happened between him and Luke is, I think, a big thing into an insight about and then also kind of Luke doesn't help his own cause, but I think in a good way.
Worst human.
No, because Luke
can't say that. Come on, I don't say that. That's
even in New Hope.
No, because there's a moment when Luke Luke actually, and this is my favorite part of The Last Jedi, is when he tells her about the hubris of the Jedi. Like, yeah, it was because of the Jedi that Palpatine rose up to begin with. It was because of the Jedi that the First Order got... Like, he does that. And then in this movie, he's the, once again, corrections. It's time for the Jedi to end. This movie, if you don't leave, Rose, the Jedi's going to end. And that would be terrible. Like, he's immediately, like, doubling back as much as you can. But to me, I think that kind of puts it into her head that maybe everything isn't black and white. Maybe there are grays. And so then, because of that, I think that's why she thinks that maybe he can be redeemed. Because she goes, okay, if the world isn't black and white, maybe there are grays, then maybe there's a way that we can kind of put the light back on this a little bit.
Fun.
And that, but to me, the thing is this. You start a movie with what you were left off with. So you have to turn what you left off with into something else. You can't try to take 4 steps back to change things. Like, for instance, the movie starts off, her lightsaber's back. That lightsaber exploded. Where did it come from?
One.
It's the same lightsaber.
But when? This movie's literally picking up like right after.
Not necessarily. No, she's already been training with Master Leia.
It's been a little bit of time.
Master Leia.
I love that moment.
That was the other thing. That was the other one. How could Leia float if she never had any training? Don't worry. Actually, she did have training.
Well, she did have training in the books. There's a whole series. Yes, she did. I'm telling you. I read the books.
I know, but she
Guess
barely
what?
got any
I don't know how to
training.
read. So if you don't put it in the movies, fuck that.
Oh yeah, J.J. Abrams, by the way, has my most egregious fault in this whole movie.
What?
Which is this.
Be careful.
Movies should only exist on their own. You shouldn't have to read a book to understand a movie. And I'm going to ask you this. You've only watched the movies, right?
That's all I'm doing.
Okay.
That's all I'm doing.
I'm going to ask you this. After the Jedi defeated the Empire and everything was finished, how the hell did the First Order get there? It's never explained in The Force Awakens. It's never explained in The Last Jedi.
But it doesn't need to be. You don't need to know.
Time out. But check it out. But that's also what I was alluding to earlier with Marvel and everything. Is like after certain periods of time, we just accept shit. Now I'm not mad.
Exactly. So to me, you got to work with what you're working with.
Work with what you're working with. I'm not mad at accepting shit, but like Paul said, you gotta. If you have something over here, maybe it didn't stick the landing. But you still got to follow through, and hopefully you can make it come to fruition in the end. You can't take 4 steps back. With that said, certain things that happened in Last Jedi that I didn't like, they took 4 steps back. But even if they did take steps forward, did they really know where they were trying to go with that story, given the fact that they didn't explain anything from or in Force Awakens.
No,
Amen.
So that's the thing.
They didn't explain that.
Well, that's because J.J. Abrams is a notorious setter of
That's true. That's true.
J.J. Abrams, when he left the first season of Lost, you know what he said? There needs to be a hatch in there. And they said, what's in the hatch? He went, it doesn't matter. There just needs to be a hatch in there, and that's going to be the mystery. Because that's how his mind works. He goes, there needs to be
3 seasons of Lost,
yes,
but that's okay.
But, huh?
He was in the first 3 seasons of Lost.
No, he was executive producer, but he stopped writing after the middle half of the first season. So,
don't even get on my Lost train.
I love Lost. I'm saying that's the way his mind works. That's why in The Force Awakens he goes, who is she? And the whole thing about Rey is they go, who is this girl? And they make it seem like she's going to be someone, but does he actually decide she's going to be someone?
Do you think...
He goes, no.
Okay, wait. We gotta hit the big pause button for both of you because here's a bigger. This is where I go back to. It's not J.J. Abrams. No one's gonna blame him because here's the thing. Let's go with Marvel, okay? Kevin Feige. There's 23 movies, right?
Uh-huh.
There's like I think what?
And there's 18. And there's 7 really good ones. But
let's put that on the side. We're talking about continuity. Let's not say good, bad, or in between. All right, I think there's 17 directors. Someone can correct me, fact check me, whatever. But let's just go with 17 as a round number because some people did some repeats. Out of 23 movies, okay? And you would say, now whether or not they were good or bad, story-wise, from Iron Man 1 all the way through Endgame, there was a through line, right? Like you could look back, the Tesseract was one. You had everything ends up working together, right? Mm-hmm. And you had Kevin Feige did not direct a single movie. He was just over there being the czar of everything. And he told directors like Taika Waititi, hey, you do whatever you want with this movie, but plot wise, A and B needs to happen, right? Mm-hmm. Same with Coogler, all these things, right? He gives them freedom, but he says, hey, but this is the big picture. Just make sure your movie ends here, okay? So did Kathleen Kennedy do that for Rian Johnson and or J.J. Abrams? No way in hell. That was the problem.
Well, she never said she did. She said that she wanted to give directors creative freedom.
Well, so did Kevin Feige. You don't think Kevin Feige gave creative freedom? Hell yeah. Way more. No. Kathleen Kennedy, creative freedom, those things do not go together. She's like Kim Jong-un over there. She is controlling that thing. Like, she's the one who fired, what's his name from Solo? And she almost ruined Rogue One. She had him do a bunch of reshoots, but it was already too far gone for her to mess with it too much because she said it wasn't Star Wars. It was too dark. Whatever. She's in charge of The Mandalorian with Jon Favreau, who did do a great job on Iron Man and a bunch of other Marvel things. However, I feel like his hands have been cuffed big time by her making the BPG over there. We're getting a little bit of a sidetrack. What I'm trying to say is, it would be like if I gave you a group project, okay? And I said, all right, it's going to be a 3-part group project. You do parts 1 and 3, you do parts 2. But I don't really care what happens. You guys figure it out. You do part 1. You set it up. Again, you have no direction. He does nothing in part 2, and now here you are with part 3, and you've got to tie it together. And I'm telling you, hey, by the way, no one liked his part 2, so I want you to fix it. And I'm the boss who's already been known to fire directors. In fact, he was supposed to direct episode 9, but I said, see you later, Sally.
Trevorrow was supposed to direct episode 9.
But he was gonna. Oh, I'm turning now.
And then he made the Book of Henry, and then everyone.
Well, I'm just saying that I feel like if we're just talking overarching plot. Now we can get into the specifics of the movie. People can dislike JJ, love JJ, hate the lens flare, love the lens flare. Star Trek reference. But it doesn't matter. What I'm just trying to say is, as far as overall plot, I get she was trying to give creative freedom. You needed a Kevin Feige. You needed someone to say, here's Rey's parents. This is how we're going to set it up. In The Force Awakens, we're going to see, maybe not like a post-credit scene, but sometime in there, we're going to hear just whispers of Exegol, right? We're not going to address it. We're just going to, just like in how the end of Avengers, you saw in the post-credit scene, you saw the side shot of Thanos, right? You know how that happened? And no one explained it. You had to go, everyone went home and they Googled who was the pink guy at the end of Avengers. So you could have had something like someone barely mentioned Exegol. You could have had that triangle thingamajig in the background. Because you know what? Star Wars fans would have found those Easter eggs, and it would have been more in the public lexicon. The reason this movie had to have so much exposition is because Exegol was not hinted at, mentioned, no sort of idea other than that it would even, people might have known it existed, but that it was going to play a part in these movies. Again, you think about Marvel, how good they did setting up. And they had a way harder job than Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy has had 9 movies, and she's fired half her... Yes, she's fired a lot of her directors. Kevin Feige had 23... Whether or not they're good, bad, or in between, he has done more to corral that universe and get it under his control and still let directors have creative freedom.
I think having someone start with the C list of Marvel characters compared with starting with the most beloved franchises of all time is a little different as far as one person had a harder job.
No, he had it way harder. He had to make people care about Iron Man. And I feel like it's hard for people to understand, like, no one knew who Iron Man was back in 2008. Not a single person. You could have asked 100 people on the street, unless they were reading an Iron Man comic.
But listen. Y'all are both right. That's a fact. Now, if we're reeling it back in to let's just fucking call it The Last Jedi into The Rise of Skywalker. In the end of the day, there were things from The Last Jedi that people didn't like. Because of fan outcry or whatever you want to call it, they obviously fixed some shit, and they did it in a non-creative, too over-expositional, and lazy way.
But how could they have done it differently?
Hold on. That's how they did it. That's not good filmmaking, number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, if we are talking about, and this is all I'm going to say about it, this is all we're going to say about it, if we're talking about everything that happened with Marvel and how it had a through line, which we obviously know that it did, and if we
didn't like it, it had a through line.
If we didn't like it. And if you relate that to episode 1 through 3, which obviously a lot of people don't like, some people out there love it, whatever, that's fine. But it still also had a through line that clearly set shit up from 1, 2, and 3. And when you go into 4, 5, and 6, those had a through line as well.
Shaky, but yes.
But they had a through line.
But I would add this.
Hold on.
I'm actually building off your point. I would add this, though. Do you feel like The Last Jedi follows The Force Awakens?
No.
No.
You think it changes the story?
Okay.
Or does it follow exactly what happened?
I do think that The Last Jedi does follow The Force Awakens only because characters from The Force Awakens were in The Last Jedi.
But you don't. So this is exactly what's in The Force Awakens. Luke Skywalker has vanished. He is in exile. That is a setup by J.J. Abrams. That is not a setup by Rian Johnson. They say Ryan Johnson made Luke hide on a planet like a coward. No. The Force Awakens starts off with Luke Skywalker is in exile. He starts off with that plot line. So what is Ryan Johnson to do if you read that in the opening crawl of The Force Awakens?
I can tell you a million ways how to fix
So he should have said that he got lost on a
planet.
planet. Like, what?
Check this out. So again, for me, if you set it up where Luke is vanished, he's on this planet, exile, he's upset with what happened, then that movie needs to primarily be about the emotional reasons why he went to that planet, not a whole bunch of other shit.
Drinking blue milk.
If you look, honestly, if you gave us like a more quiet, emotional, impactful type of film for The Last Jedi.
I thought The Last Jedi is a quiet, emotional, impactful film.
It does. It has those moments, but to me personally, it didn't have enough of those moments that would then bring about the true emotional impact of the finality of Rise of Skywalker. Okay, so damn it, pause that real quick, and we're back. All right, so basically, like what I'm saying is that if The Last Jedi had continued a little bit more in depth as to what was it that Luke saw in Ben that made him feel like I need to turn this lightsaber on right now.
To murder him.
To potentially murder this guy who's my nephew. If we had seen this is his nephew. This is family drama right here. It's family affair. So if we had seen more of that, and then we would maybe understand why he was so adamant about fuck my family. I don't care about my mom. Fuck my dad. I just got to get him out of my mind, out of sight, out of mind. We might have been set up a little bit deeper. And I don't mind that JJ set up the who were raised parents. That's a great through line to have through three films. But then when you answer the question that was answered in Last Jedi, they're junk traders, they're nobody, or whatever. Like, that's basically you giving us that. If you want to say it was a twist or whatever, and then here we find out, and this, no, not really. Because there was nothing in Last Jedi that said Palpatine was coming back. There was nothing in Last Jedi that said...
There's nothing in Force Awakens that was Palpatine.
Nothing else.
I agree with you.
So if you think about, like, Empire Strikes Back, as what, for me, I love that. I think that's the best one in all of them. That's just me, though. But if you think about Empire Strikes Back, very quiet on Dagobah with Yoda and actually training and seeing the pitfalls of like I can't do it. When did Rey have that? Rey didn't have that I can't do it bullshit.
Yeah, Luke didn't train her.
She automatically was a master and shit. Hold on now.
Oh no, she wasn't.
What the? Come on, dog.
Wait, we gotta hit the pause on this one.
No. Hold on. Let me finish. So anyways, so she does all that shit. Now in this movie right here, she's basically healing motherfuckers. She can heal people. When have they done? Did I miss something? Did I miss something?
So you did? No, hit pause because if I know you haven't watched it.
Luke couldn't heal anybody.
Luke is a bitch. I hate Luke.
Stop it. Why couldn't if all of a sudden could we agree real quick? Could we agree that Luke was more of a Jedi Master than Rey was?
No,
Can we just
false.
When Return of the Jedi jumped off? When Return of the Jedi jumped off, could we agree? Could we agree that he was technically furthering his Jedi Mastership?
When you throw in the word technically, then yes, I have to give it to you.
Okay, so time out. So if technically he was the Jedi Master, and if technically he had done a little bit more studying, because we already know that the movies of the originals happen years after each other, and this is literally happening like the next week.
No, it isn't. She trained with Leia.
6 months later. Okay, 6 months later.
No, what do we know it's 6 months? I think
she went to
something like that.
She went to a vocational Jedi school.
I'm gonna go with a year or more. I'm gonna go with minimum a year.
Bottom line is some of the leaps and bounds that they take for her character to make. I can heal people. I can do all this shit right here. It's too much for me. They didn't set any of that up. Go ahead.
They do in The Mandalorian. So that's what I mean. So
they set it up the week of. It's kind of.
I know, but when I
No, apparently, if you look at a lot of older
yes, I was going to say the books,
then Jedi can heal people. Or whatever.
Books.
However,
I can't read.
But the comics, okay, so wait. If you're talking about books, we're not going back to the Avengers, but I'm just saying the end of Avengers 1, where you see Thanos' profile, you must have either read a comment or Googled it. Both require reading to know who Thanos is.
No, but then the next time, when Thanos shows up, they explain who he is. They don't just go, you should already know.
But years later, like literally, we're talking years.
Yeah, but
in the
a
real
tease
world.
is different than like having him be the explanation.
Well, that's why again we're not gonna go back into this, but that's why I think it's Kathleen Kennedy's fault always because she gave nothing to set up from. There's no one overseeing all this to make sure these wonderful, crazy, creative directors are going to some sort of destination. That's what I'm saying. Like again, if that had been instead of the week of setting up the whole healing thing, why didn't she set it up? in the first one, or why was I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying it's not their fault.
I just feel like that whether you set it up in The Mandalorian or whether you set it up in books, if we're taking 9 movies and we are putting them into a cohesive through line, much like Marvel, much like, say what you want about Dark Knight series, but much like that, right? Much like Back to the Future, much like any fucking story that's been here. Nothing in these films, nothing in these 9 films says there are these possibilities.
Agreed.
Now, it's fine if you... I like Last Jedi. I don't love it, but I like it. There's things in it I don't like that much. And I'm like, oh, why did they put that in there? But I still enjoy that movie quite a bit. And I don't mind 100%. I don't mind the way that they took certain things. So again, like I said, I agree with you with they shouldn't have backstepped. So when we're, again, kind of reviewing this film, Rise of Skywalker, in this film, the backstepping is not good filmmaking. And in this film, the biggest thing about this movie was the Emperor's coming back. Where the fuck did he get the construction crew to build all these motherfucking ships?
Who? So
good
where are these
contractor.
weird?
Always find a good
Who are these
contractor.
weird hooded guys that just sit in an arena
These
all
are
day
all the
shuffling
Sith.
around? Like, what was going on?
The internet had a lot of feelings
That's a good
about
question.
that
Check this
one.
out. Check this out.
Who are these people?
My question is like, you didn't give us, again, any answers as to where have they been all this time? Why, when they have, there's like a lot of fucking people in this arena. That's a lot of fucking people.
Why weren't they in the First Order? Why are they hanging on this
Why are they
planet?
waiting all this time until the First Order was basically destroyed? Snoke is down. Why didn't Emperor just go, Thanos swag, I'll do it myself, and shit like this? He's sitting there for all this bullshit. Now, again, if it was a through line that J.J. Abrams had planned, or someone had said that this, if these were some kind of story points that they said, look, in the end of the day, Rey's gonna be whatever, why not just give us that fucking through line? And that's for me, this, real quick, to the review, that's for me why this movie did not stick the landing, because we can say what we want about the prequels, the originals. We can say what we want about Last Jedi and all the issues we had about it. That's fine. There's going to be those issues. But what I cannot get down with is the fact of how, whether Last Jedi wasn't my favorite, nothing through here truly respected what Rian Johnson did, or picked up where he left off without, how should I say, road bumps, without bumps in the road, because it just doesn't flow at all. There's
the theme to me of The Last Jedi is that anyone can be a Jedi. Anyone can have the power.
Yeah.
You could just be born with it. That's why Broom Kid at the end has the Force. Because
That's what Anakin had it. He was just on a little planet on Tatooine.
They do make Finn look a little Force sensitive. They do make him
that's also because Boyega complained he didn't have enough screen time. But that's a whole other thing.
But he was Force sensitive.
There's a whole thing, if you notice it, when you watch this movie, you can tell that he complained about this lack of screen time, because there's moments when he just kind of interjects with questions that really don't add anything. There's like,
real quick,
can we just give him as much screen time? So there's a point where he's like, what's going on over here? He's like, why are you so shady? He just literally like inserts himself into scenes. I agree.
Because I will say this, to Paul's point right now, one thing that took me out of the movie just a touch was when she's having a pretty legit lightsaber battle, which we had not seen in this trilogy yet.
Such good. I don't even like battle scenes. I love me a good lightsaber
when she's having a legit lightsaber battle with Ren on that fucking fallen Death Star, that shit looked fucking legit. All of a sudden, she could be killed at any moment. All of a sudden, Finn want to come up talking about, hooray! He's always yelling.
How many different characters can they make John Boyega yell their names?
Hooray!
Chewie! Ray! Whoa! That to me, I was like, how many times could he just yell at other characters' But also, literally, I think 20 minutes before that, he goes, Ray, you're the strongest fighter we have. And then all of a sudden, he's like, but Ray, I need to help protect you. She's the strongest fighter you have. Why do you need to protect her?
I thought for sure that when he shouted her name and she turned around, she was gonna get stabbed or something bad was gonna happen.
That's what makes sense.
And she was gonna fuck it all up. I don't know.
Get distracted.
But anyways, so yes.
She just force pushed him out of her business. She's like, hey.
I just thought he was annoying.
Try to close this deal.
So apparently the rumor is that there's like a 4-hour cut of this movie.
I couldn't believe it.
Thank goodness. But wait. We're going back to the reason there needs to be a 4-hour cut is because, again, I don't even blame Rian Johnson, and I hated that movie, and I do not blame him. I loved his work on Breaking Bad. I didn't like Looper that much, but his Breaking Bad episodes.
Looper was fucking phenomenal. Stop it.
But I liked it. I'm just saying, it's not like, oh, my absolute. Anyways, doesn't matter. I even like Rian Johnson. I love J.J. Abrams. I feel like it wasn't their fault that they had to develop 2 movies of plot. Like I said, there was no through line in these movies. So in one movie, they had to create a trilogy of through lines. If Exegol had been mentioned, if that thing, at the beginning of the movie that starts off with Ben, Kylo, whoever, going to search for this planet, that should have been like what was happening in the second one, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, there should have been something in earlier movies to hint this is where we are going. It doesn't have to be we don't have to go full on Marvel, doesn't have to be no post-credit scene, but there should have been like a shot sometime of a black hooded figure and then just sparks come out of their hands or something like that to just give us idea of where we were going. There was nothing until this movie.
To me, this is the through line. In The Force Awakens, Rey assumes that she has to be someone, that her parents are someone. People are even asking, is she someone? Ben his parents want to redeem him, but he kills his father. Second movie, Rey finds out she's no one.
Wait, that first movie was
The Force Awakens.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Second movie, Rey finds out she's no one. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter, because anyone can be a Jedi. It doesn't matter. Her lineage does not dictate who she is. Ben, when he teams up with her in that amazing back-to-back fight sequence against the Praetorian Guards.
It was such a good one.
So, another thing, which, by the way, speaking of trying to correct things from The Last Jedi, the one thing that I think everyone can agree on was how good that fight scene is. And then in this movie, they both get back to back, and then and I don't know. I'm like, when was the next?
Because we already had
point being,
no repeats.
Point being, the end of The Last Jedi, you think, hey, Ben might turn right now. This is it. This is his chance to come back to the light. Yeah. And he goes, no, let the past die, kill it, blah, blah. That to me is him almost going and then
saying fuck that,
pulling back in. Yeah. To me, the logical conclusion is at that point, Ben can't be redeemed, and this movie should build on that. That to me is the through line that they should have gone with if you're going to go by what went on in the 2 movies before. The 2 movies before is Rey thinks she's someone, she has to be someone. Her parents left her, but who are they? Turns out she's no one, but that's okay. She has to learn how to accept that. This movie instead goes, oh, well, no, she's powerful because she's a Palpatine. And to me, it just seems so lazy. It's just like the laziest thing ever to be like, but her grandparents, which, by the way, also that means the Emperor fucks.
He absolutely does. Come on.
Who would he have, so they're not even saying, like, who he got with.
It doesn't really matter who we got with. It's, well, okay, wait, but hitting pause, though, because I feel like what you just described, you just were talking about that Ben and Rey.
Yeah,
you're
the
not
main
talking
character
about
of the story.
No, but you're not talking about a plot through line. Like, for example,
she's the plot. She's the main character of the story.
But they didn't stick the landing.
Listen, what I'm trying to say is this. Let's talk about 4, 5, and 6, right? So the plot is that the Empire has come up with a Death Star. They're going to destroy a planet. The princess is trying to stop it. That I'm not talking about Luke has a personal journey. That's inside of a larger plot, right? So then there's a resistance fight. Mm-hmm. These 3 movies they have character arcs. That's a character arc, not like a 3-movie plot. I feel like if the plot had been, hey, the Emperor is coming back. They're going to make the final order. This is all going to be about a search for this Sith planet. Then that's a big arching plot. They had a couple character arcs that they had stories that revolved around them, but there wasn't some big master plan, Kevin Feige, Marvel, like overarching, universal, here's where the whole entire story is going. Now the characters are a huge part of that, they're drivers to the plot, but characters in and of themselves are not plots unless you're talking about small indie films or The Marriage Story, which I haven't watched, but that's Adam Driver's in it. That's what I'm trying to say, and again, that's where I don't blame Rian Johnson, I don't blame J.J. Abrams. They weren't working with the materials they needed to be able to build on each other. These movies were not, because again, I don't know, I don't like George Lucas that much, but I will say the first 3, 1, 2, 3, one person had a vision, George Lucas, and he said, okay, these are how these movies are going to fit like Lego pieces together. Whether or not you loved or hated them, there is at least something going on. This one, you had 2 different directors who did not communicate with each other. There wasn't an overarching plot they were building off. You're right, J.J. Abrams just sort of set everything up without a plan. That's not his fault. He was not asked to create a plan. This is, again, where we go into the major thing of I can take this movie in isolation and say, I like this movie. It just by itself. It had to do too much, and that's because they did not set up a single thing in this movie for the most part in the first 2. Last Jedi. Snowden, or whatever, I was going to call him Snowden, what's his name? Snoke. He wasn't even a big enough character for me to remember his name.
They did build him up to be like some big guy, and nothing really ever happens and comes to fruition with it.
But so Snoke basically says, oh, I'm the one who connected you 2 via the Force. Like, I set up that collect call. And they, to your point, fully undo it in this movie and say, actually, you're a dyad. Like, that's why you're connected.
Yeah,
which is stupid. But I didn't like the Snoke thing. I also was like, well, that's
Which
super
is why it's
dumb.
great. Yeah, he was terrible, so Ryan Johnson killed him.
I know, but I'm saying that, but that plot point stuff. I'm not even talking about that character. Like, we're just talking about full-on plot point of I like the dyad thing. That should have been in Force Awakens when they first met. He should have said like, I feel something different. Again, there wasn't a through line.
That's what I'm saying.
No
Palpatine, her being Palpatine doesn't even need to happen because a dyad on the Force is literally there's balance in the Force. These two things rise up because of this thing happening. This entire movie could be made without her being a Palpatine, and it's the same thing.
And you can
it doesn't take away from the themes that were created in The Last Jedi from Rian Johnson about the power of just being yourself and not being about your legacy or whatever.
100%. I feel like the reason they brought back Palpatine had less to do with a reaction to The Last Jedi. I really do. I think they said, by they I mean Kathleen Kennedy, and maybe JJ, I don't know, we need a big bad, right? This is going to end a 9-movie series. So we got to bring the biggest bad we got. Let's pull out from our deck the biggest bad there is, Palpatine. Starting from Episode 1, Phantom Menace, he was the through line in those first 6 movies as far as being the driver of the Sith, right? Behind the scenes, super sneaky. So I think that's why they brought him back. Now, they could have brought him back without Rey. He could have said, I sensed a dyad in the Force, and I sensed there was a girl on Jakku, right? Her parents could have been junk traders, right? We're just trying to protect their daughter, right? So that all could have happened. You could still have Palpatine, but you just have to set it up. And so I don't... And again, I do think that they undid that idea of, you don't have to be anyone. And I love that Rey was no one's parents. But I do think that they tried to figure out how can we bring Palpatine back, because we got to end this, and no one had a plan of how to end this. So let's look to the books to see what's something we could pull out. I know, but just like how they look to the comics, I'm just saying. So that's what I'm trying to say is I feel like I have to just judge this movie for what it is, for the fact that whether or not you like I love Force Awakens, you really like Last Jedi, but regardless, neither of them did what they needed to do as far as overarching plot to set up a finale.
And I would say that the way you fix that is not by shoving as much plot as possible into the last movie.
What do you do then? How do you fix it?
The last movie should have been Rey versus Kylo.
That's 100%. That's what I agree with that.
Kylo's the big bad at the end.
When you were saying that her parents could have still been junk traders and whatnot, and the overarching plots and whatnot, I still agree that the end was obviously Rey versus Kylo. That's been building up throughout all films. You could easily see that from when they were on that, wherever the fuck was, a Star Destroyer or whatever they called it.
So speaking of
Killer Base,
when they were on Killer Base, and then even from the last movie, same shit. She tries to turn him. No. Now, real quick, let's get to the Force, to the Rise of Skywalker right here.
Behind the lights.
Let's get to the Rise of Skywalker right here. So, in the end of the day, again, because I know I said this 1,000 times before, both of y'all are right. But let's focus on this movie now. If we're judging it in an isolated box.
So this is some interesting stuff. Apparently in the Visual Dictionary, I don't know if you've ever checked out these books that come out the Visual Dictionary. The planet he's at the beginning, the red planet, that's Mustafar. That's Darth Vader's planet where he finds the Wayfinder. Which, by the way, it's called a holocron. I don't know why J.J. Abrams just decided to name something else. It's called a holocron in Star Wars. It's already been there. It's a thing. But he's like, it has to be called a Wayfinder because it helps them find the way. Anyway,
maybe because I thought no one would read the books.
And
so they gotta call it something they can understand.
They could just say holocron. What is a holocron? Oh, it does this.
There's plenty of weird names.
They weren't afraid to explain a lot of other crap in this movie.
Maybe they probably don't need no more exposition. Let's call this theory.
And also, Janna is Lando's daughter.
Yeah.
The black chick?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the thing, straight up, he has an infant child taken away from him.
This is in the books.
Yeah. This is in the Visual Dictionary.
I don't read.
No, so what I'm saying is there was definitely probably, like I said, there's probably a 4-hour cut of this movie.
So that's just going to be
That's probably in the movie before.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be visiting Darth Vader's castle to find the
but look, God damn it, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like I don't want to have to. That's what I'm saying. You should have just fucking every other franchise that remember when they was making the fucking Divergent, they were making the Hunger Games, they're making Amazing. They're stretching these motherfuckers out so long. If there's all this lore and all this other spin-off situations that can tie in these major characters from the originals, why not give us these specific movies that do give us that overarching plot, but then we're introduced to family, so we care more about these people. Because honestly, if I'm being 100%, when I seen this black chick on horses, I'm just thinking, okay, that's about to be Finn's girl. All right. Oh, okay, this is about to be Poe's girl over here. I see where you're going with this. Okay, I see what spinoff is coming over here. This shit is too obvious. There's spoon feeding us way too much.
That's the thing. I felt like everything that, especially big reveal, and they love to have big pause moments where they're like,
what?
And then every time you can see it coming 10 minutes away. It's just like,
now listen. We're going back to the conviction, way back in the beginning of this review that wasn't really a review.
Yeah.
We're going back to the conviction. I would have liked the emotional impact of her accidentally killing Chewbacca. To not have been on another ship, because isn't that why she went back to Luke's little home planet right there where he was?
Yeah.
And then he caught the thing, and then maybe that could have been the catalyst.
But you can't kill Chewbacca, so that's why exactly
Yeah,
what
Kathleen Kennedy
kill
said
everybody else. You can lightsaber Han through the heart.
Yeah, well, that's because Harrison Ford refused to be in it unless they kill Han Solo. that's what that is.
What it is
He's
that
the one Han
Kathleen
Solo to die
Kennedy,
since Return of the Jedi. So
everyone always like gets up Disney's ass about like, oh, you're just people always say you're making it Disney, right? Basically making it PG, making no one can die.
That's fact.
Okay,
well,
but
Star Wars has always been PG. let's be. It's not like Star Wars was dead pulling it up before
but in
this.
the original PG,
but they also
Han
were
shot
murdering
first.
people.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Well,
Like
that's Georgie boy.
They show Luke's aunt and uncle or whoever like that burned up to a crisp.
Yeah. So I feel like, and again, I hate to harp on this. If she's watching, if you're watching, Kathleen, I'm sorry, but I feel like she's always said, oh, Star Wars is like clean and da da da. She doesn't want anything dark. She doesn't want Chewbacca to die. So again, I did not talk to JJ. I don't know if he's the one who said no, Chewbacca's gonna live. I'm just saying, I don't feel like. I don't know what their parameters were. I know Ron Howard had to come and completely whitewash Solo, right? The Han Solo story. So it's hard for me. Yeah, I love Chewbacca. I named my dog Chewbacca. But I do think that for that emotional impact, for that story driver, for that character arc, he needed to go.
The finality of the saga.
Yes.
Yeah. Someone needs to fucking
No one
go.
died. Literally nobody died.
One person.
Battle of Hogwarts. Oh, I mean, well, it's not, we can't even get there yet. I'm emotional about it. Look at the Battle of Hogwarts, okay? You had, sorry, Harry Potter people, but like, in that 7th book, you had major characters die. Major characters. And they didn't, just kidding, this fake was a clone or whatever. No, they died, and that spurred the story on. That made it really count, right? You can't have a 9-movie saga end with one death.
Let's just talk about in this movie though. In this movie, if you can't kill Chewbacca, don't do a bait and switch.
Yes. Yeah,
and that's what I'm saying. If you're being told by your boss not to kill Chewbacca, don't do the bait and switch.
And also, tell me this. To the story, what was the point of that?
To get them back. Right.
What was the point of, realistically, if you're Kylo Ren, you're coming down with that was the Knights of Ren, right? You're coming down with Knights of Ren to go get what you're trying to get. Why have 2 ships there and make it look like, what was the whole point of that, other than just for us to see what her potential power could be, and then give us that bait and switch?
Because this is a thing that J.J. Abrams loves to do, like in Star Trek Into Darkness, when he went, don't worry, his character is not Khan. Don't worry, it's not Khan. Only for him to go, I am. And everyone went, oh, God.
But I get it.
We can't talk about Into Darkness. I have way too many feelings. That's another episode.
But tell me, in the story, what is the fucking purpose?
Nothing.
I think it's just to send her off to Octu.
I think it's to make. But here's the thing: that thing where sparks come out of her hands. Guess when that should have happened? Take a guess what I'm gonna say. The Last Jedi. You've got to set it up earlier. I feel like you can't have the first hint of her being a Palpatine in the movie where it's revealed she's a Palpatine. You talked about big reveals earlier, how they keep doing them. The biggest reveal, I feel like you can't disagree with me. The biggest reveal is that Palpatine's back. Not in this movie, but as far as like an ethos of the franchise. Why are you making it a throwaway? Oh, Palpatine's back in the first 10 minutes. It should not have been a throwaway reveal.
Well, apparently,
that
if you
should
played
have
Fortnite, you heard the recording.
Now I gotta play video games?
No, I don't do that. No, but that could have been. Imagine if that Palpatine was alive. Was the big reveal and the end of The Last Jedi. How motherfucking sick would that have been? Why did you do it a throwaway in the beginning of this movie?
I still wouldn't have liked it. I just think bringing him back is lazy. I just think bringing him back is lazy.
But there's
and
more
it doesn't make
for
any
it.
sense because they don't bring it up.
No, but there is. And again, I know you don't like reading the books, but it's fine. And they do it expositionally with their words, explain it. Like, there is lore where the Sith do dabble in what we would call, like, I guess the dark arts, going back to Harry Potter lingo. Where that's what they do. It's how they do. So
yeah. Now, can I talk about what we liked about the movie?
Yeah.
Well, real quick. Also, I want to say one last thing here that I feel like this movie had too much convenience. Hux is all of a sudden like a spy now?
Poe's all of a sudden a coward again, out of nowhere.
I don't think Poe is a coward. When?
When he's
Poe?
like, we need to go. We're not gonna leave without them. Well, I'm not Leia. That's damn sure. I'm like, what is this argument? What's happening right now? Why is Poe all of a sudden scared? What?
He's not scared.
He finished The Last Jedi becoming a wiser and smarter person, and then they start off this movie with going, actually, he's kind of a dick now. And I'm like, what? And they're like, and he was a smuggler. Wait, what? Speaking of reading the books, what do the books say about Poe Dameron? That he joined flight school right in the beginning. He never was a smuggler.
They basically tried to make him Han Solo because the Solo story was so bad. They're like, let's just take some of that plot line.
Yeah. 4 steps back. Again, 4 steps back.
But that's not his fault. It's not his fault that Han. You can't blame this. What needed to be done in this movie, whether or not J.J. Abrams could have. Yes, because
Poe Dameron needed to be a coward.
No. What I'm saying is that you can't blame everything that went wrong on this movie. You can blame some of it on J.J. I never want to, but you can blame some of it. The Banes with Chewbacca, totes agree, like didn't need to happen. But I do think so much needed to happen, so much character development. Poe Dameron in the second one, yeah, he was basically just like a dick in The Last Jedi. So they needed to give him. There was really not. I get what you're saying. There was kind of some. He repeats the Laura Dern motivational speech in the red salt planet.
We are the spark that will light the resistance.
Yeah,
that's
but
the whole,
a line he stole from a woman is how what always happens, and didn't give any credit, didn't cite her, but whatever. Star Wars.
That's how you could tell a bunch of stuff was cut, because he does the same thing in this movie where Zori Bliss tells him, "Oh, but there are more of us than there are of him." He doesn't say it in his speech, but then when Lando radios him, he goes, "There's more of us than we are of them."
No, he does say it in their speech.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
I watched it the second time because I waited to listen for it. So they apparently must have cut that out because Lando never hears Zori Bliss say it, but yet he says it. So somewhere he magically heard it in the ether of things.
All right, so we're gonna talk about what we liked about this film. Paul, go ahead.
Okay. Actually, sorry. I did one big point I wanted to make before we go into what we liked is this is the first time I really felt like the Disney corporate synergy because the end of the movie. It's like they told J.J. Abrams, hey, Endgame made a lot of money. Can you please copy the ending as closely as possible? From Poe being like, there's no hope, oh well, and then Lando literally popping in the radio, on your left, and then all that stuff popping in.
Yes.
And then, I am inevitable. I am Iron Man. I have all the Sith, and I am all the Jedi. I'm like beat for beat, dialogue.
Damn.
And I was like, really? Like, to me, like,
and there was a big battle going on with all the major characters.
Yeah, it's
in the sky, on the land, same idea.
Yeah. So that's my only part where I was like, oh, gee. That's the part that annoys me like the most, just because that's when I really feel like paint by numbers. And to me, I'm like, oh God, please don't do that. But what I liked, I'm gonna tell you right now. One of my favorite characters in any Star Wars movie is Babu Frick. Babu Frick is the greatest guy in the history of the planet. Do you remember Babu Frick in the movie?
That little dude?
Little dude!
Yeah, he's tight.
By the way, speaking of Harry Potter, that's Moaning Myrtle. Anyway.
Really?
Yeah, that's her.
Oh my gosh, who does the voice?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so fun!
So yeah, when the second time I watched it, when Zori Bliss comes in her ship and he pops up, I just about died laughing.
Cute.
I thought it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. I really enjoyed the end of the movie, even though I didn't really enjoy her. I'm Rise Skywalker. I didn't really like that line.
Yeah, that was cheesy.
I loved her going to Tatooine and finishing where the saga first begins on the things of Tatooine, and I loved how she slid down the thing because that echoed the Force Awakens when we first see her.
And her motif, her musical motif played in the background.
To me, like that stuff really works for me, and that's the moments that I really like in this movie. Is the moments that actually take a breath
quiet
and chill for a second. Like that to me, to me, my favorite part in The Force Awakens is the moments in the beginning where she's making her food and she's sitting there, she puts the helmet on, she's sitting around, or when she's scrubbing the thing and she looks at the older lady and she's like, oh my God, that's gonna be me. Like that to me, like. And then her in this movie being like, yeah, maybe I am gonna just sit here and just chill on this desert rock, and that's okay. Like it doesn't necessarily define who I am as a person because she still has a lightsaber and all that. And I'm like, it's okay, there you go, that's cool. Also, some random old lady comes to me, who are you? I'd be like, bitch, mind your own business, get out of here. I don't know you any explanations.
Also, why do you need a last name? Your first name? I don't go around saying my full name to people, strangers are going to ask me.
Yeah. So to me, those moments work the best. Is the moments in the movie that actually take a second to breathe and relax. I really enjoyed that stuff more than anything. Even the it's tough because they had to obviously work with really bad footage of Carrie Fisher to like try to.
I thought that was actually pretty okay.
That was as good as
what
you
it
could
was.
get.
It's very obvious, but a lot of it
You can't help it. That's no one's fault.
Yeah.
I mean,
What they didn't need to do is, on that flashback scene, they could have just left their masks on. I didn't need to see plastic face Carrie Fisher and Luke. That was.
It didn't look nearly as
That was-
off-putting as what was in Rogue One, though, only because
I
of the
thought to be
lighting.
it looked just as awkward. I was like, oh god, like it took me out of the second time. I was able to appreciate the emotion of the scene more.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't caught off guard. The first time he takes off his mask, I'm like, oh, and then she took off her mask, and I was like, oh no, like I was like, ooh, I didn't like this. But I was like scared. I'm afraid. But the second time, now that I knew it was coming, I was able to appreciate the emotion of the scene more, and that's when that scene works for me. Is like I said. It's both of them. It's two people. It's having a moment, and that to me is way more interesting than like they fly now, blah, like all this crap going on. I'm like, dude, okay, this doesn't do anything for me.
I
Or
love it.
C-3PO in this movie is amazing.
Oh yeah, he's great, and they have
good.
not used him. They didn't use him at all in The Last Jedi, like literally at all.
He is the comedic force in this movie. That whole they fly now thing was no one laughed at that.
Oh, I laughed.
But him with his whole like, oh, Babu Frick, one of my oldest friends.
Oh, that
was
was
funny.
so good. That
so
was
good.
so good.
And or when he's like, and they're delicious sweets, and they all turn and look at him, and he's like,
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was behind him. Oh, that was so good.
to me, C-3PO was amazing, even though they did R2-D2 dirty in all three of these movies. But,
Agreed. I don't
Yeah.
disagree with you.
So what did you like about this movie?
So I would say that to me, and I never say this, one of the high points of the movie was that that action sequence, the dead Death Star, the water lightsaber battle. And I'm not a big action sequence person. I normally fast forward them when I'm watching in the comfort of my own home, but I thought it was fantastic. Like, great visuals. Like, I understand it was definitely on a green screen. It was a bunch of CGI, but the way that they incorporated the waves, her doing the flips, their fighting ability. I've always loved, since The Force Awakens, the different fighting styles of Rey and Kylo, which I feel like you can't appreciate in the first movie because she's untrained. She's basically just winging it. But the second movie, she's a little bit more training. This movie is where it really came to our head. Her more sort of like dancing fight, like the lots of like continuous motion. Him more with like the hacking sort of thing. I just thought it came together so well. So that
And I
seems
feel like
a
it's
high point.
And I feel like it's because there's an emotional element to it.
The way
Because
they
they
fight
had-
really goes with how they are as people. Like, Rey is definitely more, she's more fluid, more graceful. She's the way she moves through the world. Kylo is definitely more emotional, forceful, beating. Like, so I've again, since I have loved, it does not look good visually, but I have loved his lightsaber fighting style. Does that make sense?
Oh, I
like,
love
if
it.
you, it's
I
very,
like
It's brute.
yes,
It's
and
brute force.
and then I do think, and again, this goes back to our whole earlier discussion about how this movie needs to do too much, but pretend like it had been there. I loved his fights with the Knights of Ren. Imagine if they had been a bigger element in Force Awakens.
The Knights of bleh.
I know, but I just imagine they had been better emotional, story driver elements. They weren't, but I did like that fight scene. I loved when she reaches back with her lightsaber and
That was tight. That was tight.
Damn, and I even knew it was coming. A lot of times I don't like when I can tell things are coming. I'm like, oh, that's predictable. I knew that was coming when she put it back, and I still was like on the edge of my seat, like, oh my gosh, she's gonna get the lightsaber. I loved that. So there were a lot of really good moments. To your point as well, I loved the quiet moments. I think I disagree on why there weren't as many of them, because again, I think the Last Jedi didn't do enough, so he had to cram more expositional plot elements, so we didn't get.
Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say big ups to all of y'all out there that have entire film crews and a staff that be doing your long-ass videos. I, myself, didn't change the damn batteries in my microphone, so unfortunately, while I have my guest here, we lost some sound. So I'm just going to say it like this. We did enjoy Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. We had our issues with it. As you can tell, we was all over the map when we were talking about it. In the end of the day, we all thought it was a movie that was worthy of seeing in the theater. My man Paul already saw it twice. Robin, she's seen it once. I've seen it once. We're both going to go again for sure. So hopefully we gave you some insight into everything that has anything to do with this movie or some of the movies that came before it. Hopefully you liked what you saw and what you heard. So do me a favor. Do us a favor. Like, subscribe. Yo, we out.